Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Chris. About a couple of years in, and I was doing some work at counseling agencies on the side. I became aware of the coaching profession, which I know has been around for a while, but I found even at that time when I started kind of venturing more into life coaching, it was still so unfamiliar to a lot of people. They didn't really understand what life coaches did, what it was all
Yeah.
about, but I loved that it was very solution focused, goal oriented, and didn't really get lost in the past or get so bogged down in the problem that you couldn't move forward. So I really appreciated that about it. So pretty early on, I kind of ventured more into the coaching avenue, and then specifically wanting to work with other women entrepreneurs, mainly who were more spiritually minded, and really helping them, grow their own business and offer services so they could create, a large impact in the world, and not have to go through some of the struggles that I did, learning how to market everything and kind of doing it all backwards, really, in hindsight, seeing as how I approached it, right, without that knowledge of business and marketing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I think that's an epic place to start and dig back into each of the areas. So let's really jump back to the beginning because you said at an early age that it sounded like you kind of knew that where you wanted to go was psychology and human behavior. What led you to that?
Yeah, it's again, I think initially to kind of better understand myself, I had felt always like an outsider, really, and I didn't always know why, but it just felt like I didn't quite fit in with the people around me, and always just feeling different in some way. And really wanting to understand that. And I had also struggled a lot with anxiety from an early age, different social anxiety, general anxiety, and I wanted to really help myself get over that. And I had worked with different counselors kind of in and out of working with therapists around that, and I mainly thought I want to be able to work through this on my own. Like, it's nice to have this help, but ultimately it down to me being able to apply this information and move forward. So I think that was part of the interest early on, with some of my own issues around experiencing anxiety in my life, and just kind of feeling like I couldn't quite connect with the people around me, led me to want to explore that a little deeper, and wanting to better understand myself and how I could help empower myself. At that time, I don't know if I would have used that language, but looking back, I think that's what I was really doing, was just wanting to get a clear idea of what I'm all about and where I fit in and what I have to offer.
Yeah, and it's so amazing that when you realize that um, I think a lot of us feel like we don't fit in. I mean, I know I was bullied when I was a kid, and I had different interests. I mean, I was into bowling. I mean, and for those non-Americans out there, yes, I'm talking 16-pound bowling ball. It's funny. I've said that people go, "Wow, you want to be a professional bowler? That's really cool. How'd you get into cricket?" And I'm like, "Oh, I got to remember, cricket's now bigger than bowling." So, but it was, I was a bowler and an actor. So of course I didn't fit in. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's there's definitely levels in high school, and the drama club and the bowlers and the drama geeks, definitely are not not ones that fit in, except with our own little clique. I mean, but the interesting part is that when you take something like that and turn it into, okay, I got to figure out more about myself, and I got to learn more about what's going on. How can I make my, I guess let me ask you a question, because I was just thinking about it. Did you do it from a standpoint of how can you make yourself better? Did you do it from a standpoint that you wanted to fit in more, or what was your, I was going to say, what was your motivation as a younger person to really start and learn and understand more about yourself like that?
Well, I think at that time it was, honestly, to feel like I had to improve myself. Like, it was almost this feeling that I was flawed in some way. I mean, looking, now in hindsight, I see it differently. The goal would have been to really accept and appreciate myself. And, that's when I could really have stepped into my power. But then it was from a standpoint of what can I do to try to, fit in. And in terms of the anxiety, what can I do just to feel better and manage this, in my own way without needing to turn to medication or any of that? Because I felt for me, it wasn't at the point where I ever needed that. I wanted to be able to go within and to, help myself manage it. Because again, coming back to that empowering aspect, why couldn't I have those answers from within myself? But yeah,
Yeah.
to answer your question, Chris, I think initially it was that standpoint of how can I better myself, or how can I change myself so I can fit in and feel more accepted.
Wow. And that is so profound and so deep. And the interesting thing is you've been successful, and turned from from being in the mental health field to being into the coaching field, and we're going to get all into that here in a little bit. But what's so profound for me about what you just said is the fact that most people, myself included, when we were being bullied or we didn't fit in, we complained a lot, and that didn't want to try and change. Um, and you took a different route. You said, okay, you know, I need to understand myself better, and maybe there is something I can do. Maybe there is something I can do to better myself to actually change. See, I mean, I grew up with parents who basically said, well, if somebody was making fun of you, they were just jealous of you. So I had no reason. I had the typical upbringing where I had no reason to change. Like, hey, you're jealous of me. That's great. It's like, and it was well-meaning parents. And there's actually a reason for this story I'll get to in a second. A lot of us have well-meaning parents. My adopted parents are very well-meaning. They want to help you get over it. If you're overweight, they tell you you're just big boned, and they want to try and con and ease, and make things easy for you instead of questioning, because sometimes they're scared because they don't have the answers. So the reason I bring all that up is to ask you about about your parents and your upbringing. Were your parents a driving force behind it? Like, did they say to you, hey, there must be something wrong with you kids, so go figure it out? Or did they play any, and I should have said with a bigger smile on my face, it was kind of a little bit of a joke. I know it's not, it did not sound joking, but it's kind of, it was meant to be a little bit more fun and lively. But did your parents play any sort of role in pushing you in that direction, or supporting you in going that direction, or telling you not to go in that direction?
Honestly, I think a lot of it was internal. I tried to keep a lot from my parents. I don't think they realized a lot of what I was going through in school. And in terms of the bullying too, I certainly went through a phase where I was bullied. And where I felt there was something wrong with me, or I was kind of flawed, I think there was an embarrassment around that, and not wanting to feel that to my parents. And I think that's where kind of my perfectionism comes into play too, where I didn't want them to think that, I was letting them down in any way, or I kind of felt ashamed that, wow, why am I not this popular kid? And I don't know if they did anything directly to put that pressure on me. I feel a lot of it was more internal. But it's interesting what you were saying about your parents and the jealousy. My mom would make that comment too. If someone doesn't like you, that just means they're jealous. They're jealous. But yeah, so I think a lot of it, was just that internal drive. Like, I don't think my parents knew a lot of what was going on, especially my dad. My mom maybe knew a little more about bullying, and often later on, like, I would tell her after I was through things what was going on in school, and she was always somebody that would, if she knew, she would really kind of like, I'd be afraid she'd go to the school, and like that kind of super protective parent. And in my earlier years, like 7 or 8, if there was any issues with teachers or kids, she would be in the school calling parents. So I think maybe that was actually part of it as well, why I wanted to keep it hidden, because I didn't want her to do that for me. Yeah.
Well, and that's a great example of well-meaning parents making things worse when they're trying to make things better. It's like there is a level, and it's gonna be a real quick thing. There is a level where parents should get involved when their kids are being really bullied, and it's really, and when it's super detrimental to the kids. There's a lot of parents who get involved a lot sooner than, I'll say, they quote unquote should, and it ends up making it even worse for the kids. Where like when I grew up, it was, granted, my parents would get involved if really necessary, but a lot of it was go figure it out on your own. I mean, you go, go handle it. And I think that it was, I think we're talking, maybe a different time and everything, but this now we're getting off a real big tangent on a whole nother topic for a complete other show. We'll have to have you back. We'll have to have you back on. We'll talk about parenting tips. But in the interest of time and out of respect for your time and our viewers' times, is there one thing from the beginning phase that you would call a golden nugget or something, either a golden nugget from the beginning phase or something that you look back on it now and say you wish you would have known back then? Either one.
Right. I think the big thing was that I was okay just the way I was. Again, looking back, thinking I was flawed, when honestly, if I had just stepped into who I was and I was confident with that, everything else would have fell into place, because I wouldn't have cared what the other kids thought, and they probably would have been more drawn to me because I was so confident in who I was. So I think that was, you're okay. You don't need to be perfect. You're okay just as you are, imperfections and everything, right?
Yeah.
I think that was certainly the big lesson, and just in self-acceptance as well, to accept where I was, who I was at that time, and just honor that. And honestly, that's an ongoing, I think, lesson as well for me to continue to apply that. Wait, you're okay the way you are. I think especially with personal growth, it's so easy to get wrapped up in, what do I need to fix? What do I need to change? And instead of just accepting that, wait a second, I can still do personal growth and come at it from a place of just taking it to the next level, rather than I'm flawed from who I am now. So I think that's probably the biggest.
Exactly, and that's an epic golden nugget, and that's a great place to actually migrate from the beginning into the turning point. Raise your hand if you could use more clients. Now keep those hands up if you know that the best, most efficient, most effective way to attract your ideal client is to create great client attracting content that connects with your ideal client and makes it easier for you to convert them into paying clients. Now, whether you have your hands up or have your hands down, I invite you to join me on the Create, Connect, and Convert Online Summit. It's where I and other people who are real-world practitioners of creating great client-attracting content are going to share our secrets with you. The summit is online. It runs Wednesday, April 13th through Saturday, April 23rd. You need to go out to the web address on your screen at this point, register to reserve your seat. And remember, you want to join us on the Create, Connect, and Convert Online Summit, because creating content is how you spread your message, reach more people, and make a bigger difference.
To watch the rest of this epic episode now, click on the link below the video. Do it now, you'll be glad you did. Are you still here? What are you waiting for? Watch the rest of this epic episode now by clicking on the link below the video.